of whatever, or because there's nobody there who can run the test. That Black women who call 911 for emergency services, and then the ambulance shows up to her house and tells her, well, actually, you look fine and you don't want to pay such a high, bill for this ambulance ride. And then they leave, and moments later, she's dead in her mother's arms. So I'm grateful. I am 100% absolutely grateful that my story leads me here to share with you, as opposed to it having been some short blip that would have been in the news and a hashtag and circled around Instagram and Facebook and Twitter for maybe a week. But then my children left without a mother to see them through their lives and their dreams. For my parents to be able to realize me, see my dreams. For my friends, for us to celebrate all of the celebrations that there are to be had. I am ever grateful. But what I hope you understand about that story is that the only person that night who was working to save my life was me. I was the only person. If I had not bargained for that CT scan, it wouldn't have happened. And I surely would have died in that bed before my husband came back home from work with my children in that apartment. And that's just the reality of what would have happened had I not fought for myself. And so what I began to ask myself after that happened was, what if I didn't know? What if I did not know? And not only what if I did not know, because I know what would have happened to me if I didn't know. But then I wondered, how many women don't know? Like, what happens to those women? Well, all those stories I just ran down the list, that's what happens to those women. They die. They're ignored. They're pushed aside. They're not believed. They're stereotyped. It's decided that they have an STD. And so, and it was that was the thing that really got me, was like, so you think that my IUD is perforated. You think I have an STD, but you're still like reluctant to give me care. And then you only give me care because I've pissed you off. And so when we're talking about these situations, right? Like, I had the knowledge. Also, I had the wherewithal. Because here's the other thing. It's really flipping hard to triage yourself in an emergency room as you're actively dying. And that's what was happening to me. Every time I thought to myself, I'm slipping, like something's wrong. I'm slipping. Something's wrong. I was dying. I was literally piece by piece, bit by bit, dying that night. But I had to have I was fighting. Nobody else is trying to figure this out. I got to do what I got to do to figure this out, right? But that's hard to do when you're the sick person, when you're the vulnerable person, when you're the person in agony, when you're the person who's actively dying. It's really hard to look around an ER room and decide who should be the priority. And no one should ever be expected to do that. One of the things that days later, like once I had been on these antibiotics for a few days and these doctors felt like they were in the clear, Y'all, I worked for the medical profession. I worked for the medical profession for a really long time. And when I tell you about abuse of power, and when I tell you about gaslighting, and when I tell you about the way that they will CYA themselves and each other till the end, because there was a group of white men who had the nerve to stand over me as I was receiving my umpteenth dose of antibiotics, sick, in a hospital. I should have been at home with my kids. They had the nerve to stand over me and tell me, well, Miss Willoughby, you know, you really didn't give us good symptoms. There was no way we were going to know. You kept saying that you felt rectal pain, and that's not normal for a ruptured appendix. And so I had to look at that fool in his face and say to him, I told you exactly what I felt. I told you exactly what was happening to me. I told many people that night exactly what was happening to me. The failure is on the doctor who decided to never examine me. That's who failed in this situation, not me. And so that's why I'm talking about this, because you have to know, if you don't ever take anything else from me from this podcast, if you never hear another word after this story from me, you have to know that you have to fight. You have to fight. You have to speak. You have to scream. You have to kick. So what if they think you're ghetto? So what if they think your husband is a thug? So what if they think your mama is crazy? Fight. Yell. Scream. Fight. Call 911. Be in that hospital bed calling 911. Call the police. But you have to say something, because they will let you pass away. They will let you pass away. They will let you die on their hands. And then they will turn around and blame you for why you died. That's what I learned that day, as that man stood, had the nerve, had the gall of whomever to stand there and tell me, to allude to me, that this might be somehow my fault because I didn't give them the classic textbook symptoms that their basic tales studied in a damn class. And not that I showed up as a human being in need, and that their people refused me care. They will let you die. And then they will turn around and tell your family that it was your fault, and then offer condolences. You have to fight. You have to speak up. You have to scream. You have to yell. You have to look at the Suge Knight security guard like you will kill him if he doesn't make a move to go find somebody to help you. That's my story. That is why I am a doula. Because when I learned about this maternal health crisis, and especially when I learned that Black women were being, I want to say being killed, but I know that that would not be accurate, nor would it be fair. of an assertion to make, but that Black women are being allowed to die without much assistance, if any at all. I was like, I've got to join the fight on that side. Like, I can't be in this anymore. I can't justify working for these systems that nearly killed me and killed all these women or allowed these women to die, and then sit back and wash their hands of it and throw a few bucks at your family and act like it's all good. You have to fight. I don't know any other way to say it, but to tell whoever's listening, and then you need to go share it. And I do want you to share my podcast. So let me, I'm not even going to act like this isn't a shameless plug, but share this story. Seriously. Share this story with everybody that you know. Like, share this story with your family. Share this story with your friends. If you know somebody that's in the hospital right now, you call him up, you call her up, and you tell them, girl, if they not listening to you, you better fight. You better scream. You better make a noise. You better throw something. Listen. You have to fight for your life, because that's what you're fighting for. Like, you're not fighting to be heard at that point. So let's be clear about that. Like, this isn't about they're not listening to me. That's not what this is. You are fighting for your life. And I would much rather you act a fool and be labeled ghetto and whatever. But in the end, you find out that you saved your own life. So that's what I want for you. That's why I'm sharing this story. That is why I became a doula, so that I can teach women and their families how to advocate for themselves, so that I can teach women and their families that they do have power in this situation against these doctors. I don't even want to say against these doctors, but you just need to understand that your power is just as much as theirs. You have to know that. You have to know that what you say can lead the next move just as much as what they say. You have to know that. You have to know they're a business. The same way that the restaurant down the street doesn't want you leaving bad reviews all over the internet because they want people coming back so they can fill their pockets with your money. The hospitals are the same thing. Stop thinking that they're up here for charity. They're not here for charity. That's not what this is. Like, we are not in Little House in the Prairie days where the good old doctor comes by with his hospital bag to make sure that's not where we are. Doctors are not your friends, like, unless they're your actual friend, like y'all go to dinner together, they come over to your house, you know their children's names, and they're not your friends. This is not, the illusion has to stop. This idea that they're all of goodwill and good faith. And I'm not saying that they're not, or that the majority of them are not of goodwill and good faith, because there are a ton of amazing physicians and I've worked with so many of them. And so, there's a tough line that I straddle, because I know that they are out there. But when we're talking about your life on the line, you better act like that's the enemy. You better act like that's the enemy, and you are fighting your way through enemy lines to make sure that you can make it home to your children, so that you can